Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Clara Thompson adjusted her apron, tired but satisfied after the morning service at the Sunnyside Diner, a small, family-run restaurant in the heart of Chicago. The regulars were there, chatting over steaming coffees, and the winter sun struggled to warm the frozen sidewalks. Yet this morning, something caught his eye. A man, obviously homeless, had settled into the shadow of the diner's sign. His clothes were dirty, full of holes, and he was shivering in the icy wind. Clara felt a lump form in her throat. She knew the indifference of her boss, Mr. Douglas, but she couldn't remain indifferent. She grabbed a plate, a hot sandwich, and a steaming coffee and slipped out. Kneeling before the man, she handed him the meal. His tired eyes lit up with a mixture of surprise and gratitude. "Thank you," he murmured, his voice cracking from the cold and hunger. But inside the diner, Mr. Douglas stared at her, his jaw set. Clara felt her heart clench. She knew that her gesture, though humane, was not allowed. This simple act of compassion would set off a chain reaction she had no idea would happen, one that would turn her life upside down in less than an hour. As she walked away from the homeless man, a shiver ran down her spine. Little did she know, a mysterious man would soon arrive, appending everything she thought possible. Clara Thompson returned to the diner, her hands still warm from the coffee she had just given. The winter cold had left red marks on her cheeks, but she felt light, as if this simple act of kindness had given her a little inner warmth. No sooner had she walked through the door than Mr. Douglas, the diner's owner, was waiting for her behind the counter. His face was set, his eyes narrowed in a mixture of anger and disbelief. "Clara," he began, his voice harsh, "what were you thinking, giving this meal to that vagrant outside?" Clara felt her heart race, but she remained calm. "Mr. Douglas, I couldn't leave him here with nothing. He was cold and hungry. It's just a sandwich and a coffee." Douglas shook his head in exasperation. "You don't understand, Clara. We have rules here. We can't feed these people. You know damn well it causes problems." Clara felt a pang of frustration rise within her. "I understand, sir, but sometimes, what's human is more important than rules." A heavy silence fell. The regular customers watched the scene, some intrigued, others looking away, uncomfortable. Douglas took a few steps forward, hands on his hips. "Clara, I'm serious. This kind of behavior is unacceptable in my establishment. I cannot tolerate it." Clara looked down, feeling her anxiety rising. She knew what was coming next. And a few minutes later, Douglas handed her an envelope. "This is your last day here. Pack your things." With trembling hands, Clara gathered her things and left the diner. Before walking out the door, she took one last look at Marcus, the homeless man, who gave her a small, grateful nod. The silent gesture warmed her heart, despite the pain of injustice. Outside, the icy Chicago wind hit her hard. Clara felt a dull anger rise inside her, but she knew she had to keep her head up. What she didn't know was that, 25 minutes later, a mysterious man would appear, and everything would change. Clara left the diner, the envelope containing her dismissal letter clutched to her chest. The winter wind bit at her skin, and each step on the icy sidewalk felt heavier than the last. She had never imagined her compassion would be punished in this way. Passers-by ignored her, absorbed in their routines, some casting quick, indifferent glances. Clara felt bitterness rising within her. How could a simple act of kindness provoke such injustice? She walked along the street, trying to shake off the anger and sadness that assailed her. She sat on a small bench, clutching her bag, and watched Marcus, the homeless man she'd fed, disappear into the shadows of an alleyway. A pang of guilt washed over her. What if her actions had gotten him into trouble? But she remembered his grateful eyes and knew her decision had been the right one. Meanwhile, inside the diner, Mr. Douglas returned to his duties, satisfied with what he believed to be a warning to the rest of his staff. He didn't know that Clara wasn't one to be broken easily. Sitting on the bench, Clara felt her phone vibrate. It was a message from her sister, Jenny. "Clara, are you okay? You look worried in the picture you sent this morning." She smiled weakly and replied, "I'm fine, just a bad day at work." As she sent the message, a strange feeling ran down her spine. She didn't yet know that, 25 minutes after that moment of despair, a mysterious man would burst into her life, upending everything she thought was immutable. Clara stood up, took a deep breath, and began to walk, unaware that her destiny was about to change dramatically. 25 minutes had passed since Clara had left the diner, her heart heavy and her thoughts jumbled. She walked slowly along Chicago's Main Street, trying to keep warm under her coat, too thin for the harsh winter. Every honk of a horn and every step on the icy sidewalk brought back the injustice. A simple act of kindness had just cost her her job. Suddenly, a black limousine pulled up right in front of her. The engine purred softly, and Clara looked up in surprise. The back door opened, and a man in a dark suit stepped out with effortless elegance. He had the look of a powerful businessman, a perfectly tailored suit, an understated gold watch, and a confident but warm gaze. He walked up to Clara confidently, but without a hint of arrogance. "Clara Thompson?" he asked calmly. Clara stopped dead in her tracks, surprise evident on her face. Yes, it's me." Her voice trembled slightly, a mixture of astonishment and apprehension. The man extended his hand with a reassuring smile. "My name is Jonathan Reynolds. I know what happened at dinner, and I must say, your gesture was admirable." Clara blinked in disbelief. How do you know?" she whispered, unable to hide her surprise. Jonathan took a business card out of his pocket and handed it to her. "I own several restaurants across the city, and I'm interested in people who show true compassion. Your humanity and courage deserve to be recognized." Clara felt her heart race. She'd never imagined anyone would notice a simple gesture of kindness. But a part of her remained wary. "Why me?" she asked, her voice full of hesitation. Jonathan smiled slightly. "Because what you did shows you're different. You put the rules aside to do what's right, and that's exactly the type of person I'm looking for a very important project." Clara felt a mixture of curiosity and disbelief. Her world had changed in a matter of minutes. From a dark day full of loss and frustration, she was now on the cusp of a possibility that could change everything. Jonathan invited her into the limousine. "Come with me, Clara. Let's talk about what we can build together." Clara hesitated for a moment, looked back at the diner one last time, and finally accepted. Little did she know, this choice would transform her life and the lives of many others around her. The limo rolled silently through the icy streets of Chicago, and Clara sat there, clutching Jonathan's business card. Her mind was racing. Was this real? A rich, influential stranger had just offered her a chance, simply because she'd been kind? Jonathan, sitting across from her, gently broke the silence. "Clara, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm leading a project to create a network of inclusive diners, where everyone is respected and welcomed, regardless of their situation. We want to do more than serve meals, we want to give hope and help those in need." Clara's eyes widened. She felt emotion surge through her. You want to hire me? To help manage this project?" Jonathan nodded. "Exactly. But not just to manage. I want people capable of genuine compassion, courage, and humanity. People like you." Clara felt a mixture of pride and doubt. Everything she'd done so far, she'd done out of instinct, not for attention or reward. "But I don't have a degree in management or business. I'm just a waitress." Jonathan smiled, as if expecting this objection. Sometimes, human qualities are worth more than any degree. You know what it really means to help someone, and that's exactly what we're looking for. Clara took a deep breath, feeling the tension ease a little. For the first time in hours, she felt real hope. "And Marcus, the homeless man?" she asked. Jonathan nodded. "We have programs to help people like him regain stability and dignity. I think you could play a central role in that project. Clara felt warmth spread through her chest. Her simple act of kindness hadn't just been noticed, it had just become the catalyst for incredible luck. She looked at Jonathan, her eyes shining. Okay. I want to try. Jonathan smiled broadly. Welcome aboard, Clara. You're not just going to change your life, you're going to change the lives of many others. At that moment, Clara understood that her dismissal, though painful and humiliating, had been the springboard to something much greater. And she was ready to seize that opportunity, with all her determination and an open heart. The next few days were a whirlwind for Clara. She had accepted Jonathan's offer and now found herself in a modern, bright, and welcoming office, far from the icy atmosphere of the diner and the harshness of Mr. Douglas. The walls were decorated with photos of lively dinner parties, smiling volunteers, and people helped through the project. Jonathan accompanied her through the various sections of her philanthropic enterprise. He introduced her to his team, managers, chefs, and social workers, all impressed by Clara's courage and kindness. We want you to oversee the development of our inclusive dinners and work directly with the people we help, Jonathan explained. Clara listened attentively, taking mental notes. Every detail of the mission seemed to resonate with her own desire to make a difference. She felt that her gesture towards Marcus was only the beginning of a much larger journey. That same day, she had the opportunity to see Marcus again. He had been accepted into one of the project's rehabilitation programs and was now enrolled in a vocational training workshop. Clara felt an intense emotion rise within her. Marcus, look at you, she said, a warm smile on her lips. Marcus, sitting on a bench inside the center, looked up and smiled at Clara. I don't know how to thank you, he murmured. Clara placed a hand on his shoulder. Just keep believing in yourself, Marcus. You're doing all the work. I'm just here to help you move forward. As she left the center, her phone vibrated. It was a message from Mr. Douglas, you will regret what you did. Clara smiled, this time without bitterness. The threat no longer frightened her. She had found her true calling, a space where compassion and positive action were rewarded, not punished. That first day marked the beginning of a new life for Clara. She understood that sometimes an act of kindness, even if punished in the short term, could open the door to opportunities no one could have imagined. Clara had now found her place within Jonathan's project, but the reality of her new responsibilities proved more complex than she had imagined. Managing a network of inclusive dining facilities involved not only serving meals, but also coordinating volunteers, resolving conflicts, and supporting people in difficulty, sometimes traumatized by life on the streets. That morning, she arrived at the project's pilot dinner, where a group of volunteers was already busy. There were smiles, but the tension was palpable. A young man, recently released from the rehabilitation workshop, had refused to follow instructions and was shouting in the room, unfairly accusing the team of being too strict. Clara took a deep breath and walked over to him. Hey, my name is Clara. Listen, I know this is hard, but we're here to help you, not judge you. The young man looked at her, surprised by her gentleness and firmness at the same time. After a moment of silence, he lowered his head and murmured, "Okay. I'll try." This first confrontation reminded Clara that compassion alone was not enough. It also required patience, diplomacy, and an ability to handle delicate situations. Later that day, Jonathan arrived to take stock. "Clara, I'm impressed with how you're handling these situations. But remember, our goal is also to make these dinners financially sustainable, so the impact is lasting." Clara nodded. She understood now that the project required a balance between heart and logic, between humanity and organization. Every decision had a direct impact on the lives of the people they were helping. As she left the diner that evening, Clara thought about Marcus, the young man she had just helped, and all those who would walk through the doors of the diners in the days to come. She realized that her initial act of kindness had not only changed her life, but was beginning to transform the lives of others. And that gave her the strength to keep going, even in the face of overwhelming challenges and responsibilities. A few weeks after she started, Clara began to feel fully integrated into Jonathan's project. She now knew how the dinners worked, understood the needs of the beneficiaries, and knew how to manage volunteers and sensitive situations. But that day, an unexpected opportunity would change everything. Jonathan called her into his office, a spacious space bathed in natural light, with large windows overlooking the city. He held a folder in his hands and an enthusiastic smile lit up his face. "Clara, I have a proposal for you. We've been contacted by an international philanthropic foundation. They want to fund the expansion of our dinner network, but they want someone hands-on, someone who knows the beneficiaries, to oversee the project." Clara felt her heart beat faster. "Me?" she asked incredulously. Jonathan nodded. "Yes. They want someone who embodies our values. You've shown courage, compassion, and leadership. That's exactly what they're looking for." Clara took a deep breath. It was a huge responsibility, but also a unique opportunity to transform even more lives. "Okay. I'm up for the challenge," she said determinedly. In the days that followed, Clara worked tirelessly to prepare the application and present the project to the foundation. She visited the dinners, spoke with the beneficiaries, and collected moving testimonies that demonstrated the real impact of their work. Every smile, every word of gratitude reinforced her conviction that what she was doing had true meaning. The day of the presentation arrived. Clara, dressed simply but confidently, stood before the foundation members and recounted the stories of the dinners, the volunteers, and the beneficiaries. She spoke with passion, describing how a simple act of kindness, like the one she had shown to Marcus, could create a snowball effect of positive change. At the end of her speech, the members of the foundation were visibly touched. One of them spoke, "Clara, your commitment and humanity are exceptional. We want to support this project and entrust you with overseeing its expansion." Clara felt a wave of emotion wash over her. What she had thought impossible just weeks earlier, being recognized and held accountable for her compassion, was becoming a reality. She understood that sometimes kindness was more powerful than any degree or network of contacts, and that sincere acts never go unnoticed. A few months after the foundation's approval, Clara was finally seeing the tangible results of her work. Inclusive dining had proliferated across Chicago, and each establishment was becoming a haven of warmth and dignity for people in need. One morning, while overseeing the opening of a new diner, Clara saw Marcus walk in with a big smile. Since joining the rehabilitation program, he had found a stable job in the project's logistics department. Seeing her former beneficiary transformed into a capable employee filled Clara with immense pride. "Marcus," she exclaimed, approaching to greet him. "Look at you. You're amazing." Marcus smiled humbly. "I never would have made it without you, Clara. You believed in me when no one else did." Clara felt her eyes moisten. She understood that what she had accomplished was not only professional, but profoundly human. She had transformed lives, including her own. Shortly after, Jonathan organized a special meeting to celebrate the project's successes. Clara stood in front of the team, listening to the stories of beneficiaries, volunteers, and staff. Each one recounted how a small gesture, a piece of support, or a listening ear had changed their daily lives. As the meeting ended, Jonathan walked over to Clara and placed a hand on her shoulder. "See, Clara? What you did at dinner that morning with Marcus, that was the beginning of it all. Your courage and compassion created a snowball effect." Clara smiled, but one thought lingered in her mind: she had never imagined her gesture would be rewarded in this way. The pain of her dismissal now seemed distant, replaced by the satisfaction of knowing that every positive action had its value and impact. That evening, as she walked home, Clara reflected on everything that had happened. She had started with a simple act of kindness, and now her life had completely changed. She understood that sometimes the greatest rewards come when you do the right thing, without expecting recognition. But deep down, a persistent intuition whispered to her that other surprises still awaited her. Months passed, and Clara Thompson had become a respected and influential figure in the inclusive dining project. Her face was even beginning to appear in local newspaper articles and on social media, not for her wealth, but for her commitment and compassion. One morning, while overseeing a newly opened diner in a disadvantaged neighborhood, a small crowd gathered outside. Curious, Clara approached and saw a group of photographers and journalists waiting for her. At the center of attention, a man stepped forward and said with a smile, "Clara Thompson, we want to present you with this recognition for your outstanding contribution to the community." Clara felt her heart race. She had never sought recognition, she simply wanted to help. But receiving this award formalized what her instincts had long told her: every act of kindness has a lasting impact. In the crowd, Marcus stood beside Jonathan, clapping and smiling proudly. "Look what you've accomplished, Clara," Jonathan whispered. "And this is just the beginning." Clara took the stage, moved, and spoke. "I didn't do this alone. Every volunteer, every team member, and every person we help contributes to what we do. And remember, a small act of kindness can transform a life, or even an entire community." The applause echoed for a long time, and Clara felt a warmth in her chest. She thought of Mr. Douglas and the injustice of his dismissal. But the thought was no longer tinged with anger, it was tinged with serenity. What had seemed like an unjust punishment had opened the door to something much bigger, much more meaningful. As she stepped off stage, a strange intuition struck her. Despite all this success and recognition, Clara felt that life still had a surprise in store for her, an encounter or event that could transform her life and the lives of those around her in ways she never imagined. And, in the background, a black limousine parked discreetly near the diner, signaling that the next chapter of his life was about to begin. The late afternoon sun bathed Chicago in golden light, and Clara Thompson stood outside the project's newest dinner, ready to be opened. Around her, volunteers and beneficiaries busied themselves, decorating the space with colorful banners and fresh flowers. The atmosphere was festive, filled with laughter, conversation, and gratitude. Marcus, now the dinner coordinator, was busy welcoming the first guests. Clara looked at him and felt immense pride. He was no longer the homeless man she had met a few months ago, but a competent, confident, and fulfilled colleague. As the opening ceremony was in full swing, the black limousine she'd seen a few days earlier quietly approached. Jonathan stepped out with a mischievous smile, followed by a group of reporters and photographers. Clara felt her heart race. There was something special about this event, beyond just the opening of the diner. Jonathan approached her and, in a warm voice, said, "Clara, you have not only transformed lives, but you have also inspired our entire city. Today, we are not just celebrating a new diner, we are celebrating your courage, your compassion, and your leadership." Then, in a symbolic gesture, Jonathan handed Clara a gold key engraved with his name. "This key represents everything you have accomplished and everything you will still accomplish. This dinner and all the others are now yours too." Applause erupted. Clara felt a surge of emotion wash over her. She thought back to her humiliating dismissal at the Sunnyside diner, when she'd thought her kindness had been punished. And now, everything had changed. Her compassion had not only been recognized, but had created a movement capable of transforming lives. Marcus walked over and, with a beaming smile, said, "Clara, thank you for everything. You believed in me when no one else did. And look at us now." Clara placed a hand on his shoulder and replied, her eyes shining, "It's not just me, Marcus. It's all of us, together. Every act of kindness counts." As the sun set over Chicago, Clara looked out at the city from the diner's large windows. She realized that life had a strange sense of justice. Acts of kindness, even if punished in the short term, always end up creating wonders. And in that moment of peace and satisfaction, Clara knew she had just begun the true chapter of her life, a chapter where compassion and action could change the world, one life at a time.